How do I choose my bike destination? That's a question I got asked quite a lot, and that's also the question we're gonna cover in this video. My name is Elizabeth, and on this channel I'm sharing all my bike and travel adventures. So welcome, and I'm glad you're here. The people that have already been following me, they know that I just finished my bikepacking trip to Berlin all the way from the Netherlands. And if you haven't seen these videos, check them out. And the question then now arises, what's next?
What's next?
Well, last summer when I finished my backpacking trip to Berlin, I also made a second backpacking trip to an unknown destination. And this destination I'll reveal at the end of this video, so keep watching. At this moment in time, I'm already thinking about what my next destination will be this summer. And besides that, I really want to know your tips about your favorite destinations. I also thought, okay, this process of me doing research is probably helpful for more people out there who start with bikepacking or do another trip. So that's why I'm making this video, and in doing so I will share 3 destinations that I would love to bike through sometime, and I'll just take you on this process of navigating where to go. So let's dive in. Before focusing on these 3 destinations, I first want to talk about how I ended up with these 3. So more broadly, how did I find inspiration? Well, getting inspired consists for me of two things, namely reading and talking. So before getting to these 3 destinations, I read a lot of magazines, sites, platforms, and books about biking and biking destinations. And I also talk about this with a lot of people who have done bikepacking trips themselves or just traveled a lot and have a lot of inspiration for me to get into. Well, talking with people about where I want to go, I don't ask them just like, okay, what would you suggest? But I specifically mention what I'm searching for so they can also adjust their advice to that. So mostly I say things like, I love to bike to like a big city, like I biked to Paris before and I biked to Berlin, so I love to have this big goal. After all this reading and talking, which I already really enjoy, I make a selection of 3 to 5 destinations. And then the more specific research can begin, which consists for me of 2 main elements, namely the fun part of destination, like do I like the landscapes, do I like the activities that you can do in this country, and on the other hand I look into how hard it is to bike in this country, because I'm still a beginner, and if there are a lot of high differences, then I have to think about, okay, is this something that I can do and still having fun doing so. This last element I will call the level of difficulty, which for me consists of the high differences I mentioned, but also I look into the temperature of the country in the period that I'm planning on biking there. And I also look into the general safety of the country. So is it safe for me as a girl to bike there solo? And last but not least, I also look into the availability of campsites and hostels in the specific country, because if there aren't that many options, for me the level of difficulty increases. So that's something I want to know before getting there on my bike. And of course I also look into the costs of traveling in a specific country, because if a country is very expensive, I want to know that. Okay, so now let's take the elements I just described and look into the 3 destinations I'm considering for this year, which are 1, Norway, and 2, which is not a country but a route, namely Santiago de Compostela, and 3, which is again a country, I'm thinking about Croatia. So let's start. As I already know that Norway is a beautiful country and that the temperatures in summer are really good to bike in, around 25 degrees. I want to know if Norway is also a biking country. So that's why I'm just starting with Googling biking through Norway. And I'm doing this in Dutch, sorry, because, well, I'm from Netherlands. But I will translate the things that I Google and see. So here I find that there are quite a lot of routes available in Norway, so that's good. But mostly these are short routes. And of course you can combine them, but I just curious if there are also popping up some ready-made longer routes. So that's what I'm Googling here. I'm looking if there are any longer routes in Norway. And as you can see, there are some routes popping up. And here I'm also looking at some pictures because I really like to see the country and then the routes on the map. So this is not readable for me, but it gives an idea. So yeah, I think Norway is a country where you can bike through. As I became more curious about where these routes are placed within the country, because Norway is of course a really large country, I went back to Google and touched on the button pictures. So I hope to get some routes placed in the country, like on a map, as you can see here. And there are quite a lot in the south of Norway, which look promising. At this point, I felt like all the routes that I've seen so far in Norway are or very short ones, like for a day or two, or quite massive, like biking all the way from the south to the north, which is for me in the time period that I have way too long. So and now I just Google 2 weeks bike routes in Norway, and I was just curious what will pop up. And as I see, there are quite a lot of shorter routes again, around 200 kilometers. So I guess if I'm choosing Norway to bike through, I need to combine some of these routes, which is of course fine, but just good to know. Now that I know that Norway is a good bike country, as there are many bike routes available, I'm curious about the height differences in Norway. So I just Google biking Norway flat, and I'm just curious what's popping up. And I found this page where also people asking the same questions if there are routes and that are mostly flat in Norway and Sweden. And I couldn't really find a good, clear comment here. As they say, it of course depends on where you're biking. So that's why I felt like I wanted to take a look at the map of Norway. So that's what I'm doing here. I just go to Google and Google Norway, and then I'll go to the map. And if I zoom in more and change to the option to see the mountains, which you see here, you see that indeed the map of Norway is full of height differences. So I think if I choose this country, I need to look into, okay, is this doable for me, or is it too big of a challenge? Lastly, before moving on to the next destination, I wanted to check the train system in Norway because I saw a lot of smaller routes available, which looked stunning. And I thought, okay, if I want to combine these routes, I want to have a look if there are trains that can link these. So that's what I'm doing here. And as you can see, I have this map of Norway, which shows, yeah, I think a decent amount of trains. So this is definitely an option. Next is the route Santiago de Compostela, a famous one and also one that I feel like I really want to do at one point in my life. However, I didn't really know if there were also bike options because I really thought that this route was one to hike. So that's why I just started with Googling, like a really general Google search, Santiago de Compostela biking. And I found this first site, and this site mentioned directly that there are many options to bike from Netherlands to Santiago de Compostela, and that there are also two main routes which are also described in books, so that's nice to know. And I also see that on average it takes 40 to 50 days from Netherlands to Santiago de Compostela, so that's also a good thing to know. And if I scroll further on this page, I see that there are also many options to start from France or from Spain or Belgium. So lots of options, that's good. And on the next page, on the same side, I see that the route from Netherlands to Santiago is around 2,400 kilometers. So that gives a good idea of the route. And again, it says 40 to 50 bike days. Going back to the homepage, I see this Europa Fietsers site, which means Europe Bikers. And I know that's a good site for bikers. So I decided to go there and find hopefully some more information about the route. And as you can see, it's a really helpful site. It gives one of the two main routes that were described on the other side. And as you can see, you see the distance, duration, and there's a map which gives a really clear idea of the route. And in the blue on the right, you see that there are guidebooks. You can order their GPS tracks available to download. And if I scroll down, you can also see zwaarte, and that is how heavy it is. And I read here that the road is not heavy until the Pyrenees, which are the mountains there, which we'll see in a bit. So it gives a lot of nice information. And if I go further and click on the map, this is amazing because here you can see literally the height differences at any point of the route. So I just follow the route now. I can see it's really okay looking at the height differences until this moment. It is going up. So this gives a really clear idea what the level of difficulty is looking at the height difference. So as I now have a clear picture of the height differences of this route, I'm curious about the temperature and the advised time of the year to bike this route. So I Google Santiago de Compostela in summer biking because that's the period I'm now thinking of biking. And the first element I see here is that in general, the best time is to bike between April and October. And the month July and August, it's really hot and also busy with people from Spain because they have holidays. As I felt that I wanted a bit more information here, I adjusted my Google search into Santiago de Compostela, biking in summer too hot. And I found myself at this site, and this blog described every season in relation to the Santiago de Compostela. And it described that in spring and in fall, the route was popular because it wasn't that hot and it was a nice temperature, but also the chances of rain were higher. And summer, it's also popular, but it can be around 25 degrees or more. Although in the north of Spain, it's colder mostly than in the south. So not that negative here. Okay, but I guess I should look into this more specific if I'm choosing this route. Before moving on to the last destination, I want to have a look at the available accommodations because I guess that there are quite some options because it's a famous route, but I also read something online that people buy food have a priority to people buy bikes, so I just wanted to have a look at this. And I googled possibilities, accommodation possibilities, a route Santiago de Compostela, and then I found that there are indeed many options. You can sleep in campings, hostels, or pelgrimsherbergen, and that you can have a pass to have access to these. And I just wanted to also have a look at how these accommodations look. So I arrived at this site, and well, as you can see, there are many different options. The costs also are visible here, between 7 and 20 euros mostly. So that looks promising. Yes, so I guess this is not a problem. Perfect. On to the next, which is Croatia. As well as with the other two countries, I first want to check if Croatia was a good biking country. So I googled biking in Croatia and just was curious what popped up, and quite a lot of sites popped up actually, and all of them had a lot of bike routes in Croatia, but most of them were short routes, taking about 2 to 3 days, sometimes even 1 day. And I couldn't really find a route of 2 weeks, for example. So I went to a couple different sites to check out if there were any longer routes. And I found some of 8 days, which looked pretty, but it was pretty clear that I had to mix these routes together for my trip if I chose Croatia, which is fine, of course. Yes, again, some more routes. These 8 days. I also saw some trips, like pre-made trips with a boat that you like hop the islands with your bike on the boat. So there are a lot of options in Croatia. As I'm again a visual person, I went back to Google and pushed the button of pictures and had a look at the country, like what are the landscapes like, and also to look for some routes on a map. And you can see these here, and they look promising, they look cool, so that's nice. And as with the other countries, I wanted to have a look at the height differences, so I googled, are there many height differences in Croatia? And then I found this information which says that there are some height differences, some big ones at the coast, and that they look like the ones in Norway. That's typical. But it of course depends on where you're biking. So that's why I, again, like I did in Norway, went to Google and went to the map of Croatia, because that gives me a very clear idea of the height differences and where they are, if they are there. So here you see me zooming in on the map of Croatia, and yes, it obviously really depends on where you're biking. Yes. As I know that the summer can be really hot in Croatia, I'm wondering what people advise when to bike in Croatia. So that's what I'm Googling. I Google when biking in Croatia, and information pops up that in summer it is really hot, like above 30 degrees normally. So people advise to bike in Croatia in spring or in fall. So that's good to know. I check another site to have some more information. I can see if they agree or disagree. But here is the same information, that the months July and August are really hot, and that they advise not to go on a big bikepacking trip during that period. So that's good to know. Lastly, I want to look into the accommodations available in Croatia, and I googled campings Croatia, because that's what I'm looking for the most. And I found this Euro camping site and just put some random dates there to have a look if there are many campsites available. And as you can see, I went to the map almost directly, and yes, there are many options. I just clicked on one or two to see, okay, what do the campsites look in this country, but they looked really nice. And because they looked really nice, I also wanted to have a look at the cost of having a vacation in Croatia. So that's what I did next. I googled, is Croatia an expensive holiday country? And it immediately popped up that it isn't. It's really cheap, actually. More cheap than, for example, Norway. So that was me kind of sharing this first research process. I hope it wasn't too long. And I also hope that you hopefully learned something from it, and maybe got inspired. And of course, this research start is only the start, so my research will continue. But I also really like doing this and talking with people about my future trips and also other future trips. So that's what I really want to ask you all. If you have any tips, experiences on bike trips, then please let them leave them in the comment, because I really want to know what your ideas are and also be inspired by you, because I have these 3 options in mind now, but this can still change a lot. So please leave your tips in the comments. And then the final thing, what you perhaps all waited for, or perhaps not, but I'm gonna share it like it's a really big thing. My destination that I'm going to share the next weeks in my videos is Copenhagen. Yes, I have been biking from Netherlands to Copenhagen last summer, and the next videos are covering this trip. So I hope you all staying with me on this journey, and I hope you enjoyed these videos and also this video. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye. So